All right, why don't we get started? As people join, they'll catch up in the middle. Um, for those of you who haven't been on one of these calls before, I'll be honest and say I have zero agenda. I wasn't planning on doing a full-blown, this is everything the system can do demonstration, although I can definitely go through in detail for any newer users, any of the functionality that they find confusing. But it's really just meant to be an open forum with a open dialogue for anybody on the phone regarding questions, suggestions, usability questions, best practices, very honestly, everything. And I will let you know that we are now starting to record these just for people who this time wasn't convenient for, like people on the West Coast. So please don't be shy. Just because it's being taped, as we all know from listening to my voice enough, that I am by no means exempt from messing up myself on these calls. So, very honestly, fire away. Anyone? This might be the quickest call in history if nobody has any questions. Yeah, I mean, I thought most of the new stuff was self-explanatory. Obviously, one of the first things is you can now edit your dashboard. So you can both reorder it and even remove some of the dashboard panels. That was one of the requests that we had gotten from a bunch of the users. I'm trying to think what else was in the new functionality. Right, so every new profile you've got now, you're automatically defaulted to active. That was one of them. Yep, here, give me a second. I will. All right. So the other items were the ability to delete multi-component reservations. So if I go into a reservation and I download it from one of the tour operators, let's say, rather than having to continue to hit the do not show on invoice hide or hitting the delete button and then waiting for the screen to reset, I can now just highlight this and it shows a red line to show that this box will be deleted. And when I save, those boxes will now be deleted. So a time savings for those people who actually delete things versus, I'll be honest, most of my agents were just in the process of hiding. This way we can still see what was actually downloaded, because some things like promos or price matches, although we may not want to show on the reservation itself, it's actually good to know that, for instance, this reservation was price matched with Apple, and generally you wouldn't be able to see that through the UI. So best practice, at least for me and my agents, is we do not show an invoice, but we don't actually delete these type of comments. Some of them we do, but most of them we just hide. Uh, Going back, these panels, customizable, this PCI thing I'll be sending out an email later this week about. Sticky feature on screen selection. So let's say you always want this travel impressions data box open. Not that you probably ever would. When you save, every time you open any reservation going forward, it will remember and leave that box open. Right, it knows based on the type of box if you want them opened or you want them closed. It was an easy fix, so we put it in. One or two people had asked for it over the last couple months. Hover over on profile name. So on the dashboard, you're now getting more information on the hover overs, where it's available. Third, credit card profile, self-explanatory. Invoice blocks, I think it's self-explanatory. If the invoice before the payment box was at a page break, it would actually split it and it looked kind of ugly. So at this point, we've just, it will keep the block together on every payment so that it won't be split even if it's at the end of a page break. New profiles active, we went through. FundJet error fixed. Fixed formatting on the things has been fixed. It was just not showing currency symbols correctly. The commission panel on reservations is now, we had quite a few users saying they couldn't find where the commissions were. So what we did was we just auto open this box so it displays at all times. The ability to EGT, TI to create a payment. So where before, if you wanted to submit a payment, you would have had to typed in the credit card information, hit saved, then hit the submit payment to supplier button. Now you don't need to. Once you enter in the credit card information and link it to the right reservation, this is now highlighted, allowing you to send the payment without actually saving it first.
So that's sort of the same thing as when you do the new reservation, when you want to pull over a reservation. All you have to do is tear that of the box.
Correct.
Right, so it's sort of the same.
Correct. It doesn't. Right. It's a great. So well. So when you're doing a new reservation, right? If I want to download a new reservation, let's say with EGT, and I type in, I don't know, 8185, I just tab out and I can update it. I don't actually need to go and save first, and you don't want to save first, because if you save first, it will create those default buckets below for a package that if you're downloading, you won't need. I think that was it. EGT import now includes final payment date, which was just a field they didn't include before that we got added. For some of the newer users on the phone, are there sticky points that you're struggling with that would be really nice to have that the system may offer that you're not sure if it does or not?
Hey Mitch, it's Kim Goldstein. I have a few questions. I know some of my girls are on the call too, so I'm assuming they probably have questions as well. First thing, I had a little problem with when I was entering birth dates in the system. If you miskey a date, I kept getting it seemed like a bug almost in the script. It would not let me correct it, and the only way to get out of it was to completely shut down Safari and come back in. And this also happened with my admin on her computer as well. I just wasn't sure if you were aware of that.
I wasn't. I personally haven't had any issues. If you're having them, the next time it happens, if you could, take a screenshot and send it to us before you exit out. This way, we could, if there is a bug in the script, obviously figure out what's causing it and correct it. It hasn't. I don't think. I haven't seen that reported in at least in the recent past, if at all.
Okay, and that'll probably be resolved, and I'm a little confused on this. When you do that widget that we're able to put on our website and the data automatically flows through, then we won't have to manually type those dates anyway, so that'll kind of take care of the issue. But my question is that widget currently available? Was that something that came out this week, or is that not?
It didn't. We're still testing it right now. It wasn't perfect, so we elected to go live with the rest of the release, but the widget is still in testing. I'm testing it, and one of the other agencies is testing it right now. So once there's like 2 or 3 little, I would say, quirks that remain. but we're hoping that it could go live as early as this weekend.
Okay.
And then we'll publish what the specs are, so that you can basically give it to your programmer that will say, exactly how to transfer the data, to push the data to our system.
Okay.
In the first version, it will be a push, and then in the future, there might actually be even a slicker way of doing it.
Gotcha. When something appears that, like if a booking is showing that they're currently traveling, is that just going to drop off our dashboard at some point, or is it, like basically we normally set up reminders in our system to contact the customer a couple of days after they get back. So do we need to still set up those reminders, or is that field going to stay on currently away as our reminder, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it will show up in this currently away box, and I think we've programmed it that it stays on there for 3 days post-travel. And that was a user specification probably going back about 2 months, and the reason was it turns red when they get back. We didn't want them falling right off, because then you couldn't track that the people got back, because they would automatically fall off your currently away. So we reprogrammed that to basically add, so it will stay on your currently away dashboard. I believe it's 3 days, and then it will drop off your dashboard. And this way, if it turns red on your dashboard, you'll be able to see that they should be home, or they're coming home today, I think the programming is, so that you know to send them a welcome back email, versus, if it fell off the day they got back, then you would never remember to, you wouldn't have the knowledge that they're home.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. So that should fall off. Obviously, red here means that they are late final payments. And on the currently away, there is no red on these other 2 boxes. And then obviously on reminders, anything that's past due would turn red also.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's great.
We have not created a welcome back standard email, but that is on the log of things for future. So like the final payment email that you could pre-format, if you wanted, you could pre-format a welcome back email. And a have a great trip email over in the upcoming reservations bucket.
Show us that?
It's not available. I'm saying right now.
It's already available, the format, the payment one.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit leery on changing them.
Yeah, you have complete control, or the admins do. If you go to your system settings, here's your invoice disclaimers that you have complete control over changing. And here's your final payment template that you can change any of the language for, in regards to in regards to if it's not the way you want it. These were just samples, very honestly, similar for the birthday email. So the 3 that are on the list that we haven't launched yet are the welcome back email, the have a great trip email, and the anniversary email. My guess is those 3 will probably be in the next sort of major release that goes out.
I wanted to put my signature line in there. It has my logo. Do I have to have them do it with the logo in? I don't know how to load the logo.
You can load your logo right up here, but it doesn't. The logo does not go in that email template.
Okay, so then I'll have to just hit my signature. Okay. So Mitch, to access, to use that reminder email, whatever templates that you have in there, is that when you're in the profile and you want to send an email, or how do you access that?
Yeah, I mean, you set it up in advance. But if I want to send a final payment reminder for this person, all I do is click on this button right next to their name, and it will auto open Outlook with whatever I've set up. Obviously, the formatting on this is just demo and not really pretty, but you could obviously make it a little prettier in the setup.
Okay, so since it's under the reminders, that's why it automatically populates with that.
Yeah, it pulls the information directly from the record. and then it will. This message basically is pre-formatted with whatever you want it to say via your user setup. So settings, system settings. So I don't know why, if I want to make this a little nicer.
Done at the systems level, correct? Agent doesn't have. Do they have control over that?
I believe it's an admin setting. And that's why there's this agent name. It's going to pull their agent name.
Okay.
So if I save that now and go back to my dashboard, it should be a little better formatted than it just was. There. At least it's lined up. But you get my...
Yep.
So you could put your signature underneath there, just a standard signature for your agency.
Okay.
And go forward from there.
Going back to the default to the active client, not sure if it is something with me since I'm brand new to starting. When you add a quick profile to the family members, status does not auto-populate. It is when I go back into that the new profile.
Good point. When we added it for new profile, my guess is we didn't for quick, so I'll add that to the list for the next release.
Is there any way to do for the reminders? Is there any way to have like standard reminders that you could?
There's not today. It's on the list. Just reminders was something that launched about 3-4 weeks ago. So there is no, what I would say, like today, most commonly used reminders or pre-formatted reminders that you can launch. We've been doing them very honestly where we have mass ones, like on groups, reduction dates, and other things. We created just a Word template that we've been copying and pasting from to eliminate typing.
Yeah. I'm guessing a lot of my questions they're probably things on the list, but
yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, if they're not, it's again us going back. We review that list every week or two and reprioritize based on what people are asking us for. And some of the things are new, and some of the things we've heard over and over we just haven't gotten to yet.
How about is there any way to customize invoice remarks like for suppliers or have something default come in there?
Customize inventory or invoice remarks. Like, you mean something that's on the invoice? Hello? Hello? Yeah, so I mean, I'll answer the question anyhow. Anything that shows in an invoice comment, is going to show up on the invoice itself. So if you had a specific, something you wanted to add to a specific reservation or component, you can add it in your invoice comment. The other way, if you want to add a general invoice comment, what I've been doing is going to this room request and details, just because it's a plain one. You could add the new reservation component. It shows up on top, and you can just free text whatever you want and put it up top, let's say. And when you go and preview your invoice, you'll see that information. I didn't save. That information will show up exactly on the invoice where you want it. So that's if there's like a standard note that you want to put on top or in any section in an invoice, just for the one specific client, let's say, this is a really great way to get it where you want it without actually, changing your footers or anything, changing your standard legalese, etc. It's just easier to do it that way if it's just for that one reservation. Is that somebody who dropped off and then just came back?
That would be me, the one who asked the question.
Yep. So did you fall off the website too, or did you see what I did?
I had to pull up on Facebook the conference call again. So.
All right. So basically,
I'm watching a little bit though.
yeah. Basically, what I understood your question was, if you just want to add let's say a specific comment for just one invoice,
yep.
Rather than changing your invoice footer, which I consider all the legalese and stuff you wouldn't want to change for each reservation.
Right.
What I do is I generally will go down and add a component, and I generally add this room request one. You could do service one, it's almost the same. And you could put that, whether you want it at the top of your invoice or at the bottom, you can just put information in here. So you could put, note to client, please, whatever. And you could put it anywhere in the invoice itself. So if you want it at the top of your invoice, you could have it at the top. If you wanted it at the bottom of your invoice before your payment information, you could put it there. But once you add it and save it, it will now show up right in their invoice, before their itinerary.
Yeah.
So it's a really easy way to sort of add content if it's not related to one of these components. If it's related to, let's say, your hotel.
JetBlue, you have a comment that you always put in for your JetBlue reservation.
Right. So you could go and you could put it in this invoice comment box, but there's no way to have it be where every JetBlue is going to be in here, because very honestly, this is just it's just text. The system doesn't know that this is JetBlue.
All right, so I know on the hotels there's a hotel chain drop down.
Correct.
So is there any way to put like default comments, like if I always use that, some sort of default invoice, like for vendors or suppliers or something that I always put in there. Is there any way to have that, or?
At this point, no, but we could add that to the list as something to consider for the future.
Okay.
So this was one of the drop downs that we added also, and this was meant to be more for internal tracking, that if you wanted to run a report to show all your Iberostar bookings, for instance, you could. Because again, this is just data or just text, where this is now structured data that could be reported on.
Okay.
Before we had this drop down, you could still do a report for this, but you would just have to, let's say you could export all of your reservations and then sort it via Excel or filter it via Excel based on a keyword. So you could still run a report right now on JetBlue. You just would have to export it to Excel first and then do a sort or filter in order to get that information.
Okay. I did watch your video on how to add the flyers. I can't remember the terminology that you
Yep.
had, and I can't remember exactly how to do it now, but is there any way to also do that for hotel chains?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same process of editing your fields.
Okay.
So if you follow the video, it is on our Facebook page. You could add elements to that new hotel chain dropdown. So if you wanted to track Hilton or Marriott or any of the ones that aren't there, you could manage your codes and add hotel chain. So that's the list that exists right now. You could add a new code and it will show up.
Okay. So under there, and I apologize, I have not been back in there, but in the supplier list, under the, is there any way to do the edit fields? Can you add contact information in there for supplier? Oops, shoot, wrong one, sorry.
contact information for suppliers. Can you give me a for instance or an example?
I have not, I literally just started using a email a couple days ago, but like profiles for, different hotels. Is there any way to keep track of contact information for?
I know that there are agents using the system that are just creating profiles and using profile functionality as a way to keep track of some of their supplier contacts.
Okay, so they put that under the actual profile.
Yeah, they're actually, I think, if I remember correct, the one that's using it is actually using. They created a field called. They created a custom field called company, and they're doing searches by company.
Awesome.
So you have the ability in your database to do any of that, just by going and editing your fields, adding a new field. Right here on your profile, you could add a new field, and then you could specify exactly how you want that to work. If you have questions, if you post it on Facebook, Nikita could demonstrate or contact you to do it. But it's as simple as adding a new field, putting it where you want it to, and then it will store that field forever going forward.
Awesome.
I believe, if I remember, there's only, I think there's only one agency right now that maybe is using it in that way, just because, everybody's got that information all over the place.
Like literally all over the place. It'd be nice to have it. So when I go in and put new reservations in there, and it might just be a setting on mine, but when I go into preview the invoice, it saves on my PDF every time I do that.
When you preview, it should give you this pop-up box, whether or not you want to open or close. My guess is at some point in the future, you click this, do not do this automatically for everyone. And that's why it's not giving you the option any longer to save or open.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and find that. And then when I do save it, the file size of that invoice, or when I do generate the invoice, the file size is huge.
Nobody's reported any size issues, but I'll bring that up and see, what's going on there. The only thing I could think of is, depending on the size of your logo, that should be the only variable in file size.
Okay, because it says that it's over 2 megs, and then I have a PDF converter or whatever. I've got my own PDF program, so I open it in there, I just save as, and it reduces it dramatically. So.
I mean, if you look, these are my invoices. None of them are even close.
Yeah. Okay.
So if
gotta be something that I'm doing.
Yeah, I would look at the size of the logo you uploaded, but I could have, if you want to email an example over, perhaps Nikita could figure out what's causing the size to be so significantly different. And the only difference between these are obviously how many pages it is.
Yep. All right, now I'll go look back and look at what I've got going on.
But as you could tell, they're all very standard. Everyone's the same size, either, depending on how many pages it is.
Is there any way, I know you've got the search function, but is there any way to just have a list of profiles, or do you have to enter some sort of search criteria?
You have to at least enter something. So, you could, if you want to, just search under you as an agent, and it will actually return everything. Or you could, search by it, but we didn't leave it an open search just because it was, if you have a huge database, it takes forever to return.
Yeah.
So you at least have to add, put in a letter, or you can do it by agent. And I think if you actually search by admin, it returns everything. No, it doesn't. So you do need to put something in.
Okay.
Is there a reason why? I mean, your other option is you could run a report that would give you that information also, depending on what you're looking to do.
Yeah, no, it's just not listing my other agents it's not listing the profiles for my agents for some reason when I do the search.
It's not listing a profile.
So if I select one of my other agents and search for profiles under her, I get no return.
And you're set up as an admin?
Yes.
If you could just write down your steps and we'll look at it, but nobody's ever reported that. And I can see all mine when I do it. So my assumption is, maybe it's something to do with the profiles that were set up. Are they active?
It's a very good question. So I'll go back. I'll look at the profiles first, and then if I'm still having issues, I will send something over.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if anything doesn't make common sense, just, I generally advise document your steps or take a print screen. And I think what we found at this point is 95% of it is user error, where the data.
I would agree if that matched.
No, and I'm not saying that I'm saying it in a, we make the same mistake every time. I mean, yesterday I ran a group report and I couldn't understand why one reservation wasn't showing up in my group report even though I knew I made it. And it was just so happened that my admin made the reservation and put the reservation in CRM, and instead of putting me as the agent, she put herself as the agent, just accidentally. But it took us honestly 20 minutes to figure out why this one record wasn't showing up in our report. So, even those of us who have used it for 6 or 8 months, it's, user error still happens. And, over time, we've generally figured out that it's either your reporting parameters, like your booking date or your travel date, are incorrect. The agent of record on that reservation is incorrect. Sometimes we've forgotten to link things to groups, so that's why they're not showing up. But, generally, the amount of bugs we're finding on a regular basis is almost, one a week, if that. So mostly at this point, it's pretty well tested, and the amount of errors we're finding in the technology is pretty limited.
Yep, I can agree with that. So.
All right. Any of those things that don't make common sense, just shoot me or Nikita or both of us an email. If it's data related, obviously he needs to troubleshoot it. If it's process related, I could generally tell you where I've made mistakes and where it might be the same mistake before involving him, just because, sometimes it saves time and I'll be a faster response. All right. Any other questions, caveats, requests? I mean, at any time, email us requests if there's functionality you think would be helpful. And we just add it to the list, and then we review the list to make sure things we're seeing over and over are getting pushed up to the top versus the bottom. And hopefully this API process we will knock out in the next week or so, so we can go live with that. And I'm sure that will bring up a whole slew of questions and functionality related requests.
Hey, Mitch.
Yep.
It's Kim again. I watched the little video on how to copy and paste a reservation several times, I have to admit. And I was trying to copy and paste a GoGo reservation, and I couldn't get it to work. And I'm sure it was definitely something I was doing, but I was wondering if you could walk us through that.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter what reservation it is. So any reservation in the system, the functionality is identical. So if you go to any reservation and hit store reservation copy, you'll get this reservation record stored. You could then go to any trip in the system. So not a reservation, but your trip screen, and you could paste your most recent or paste the saved, and it will add it to that trip. And then obviously, let's say you have new names. I generally refresh from profile these people's names. You could change the reservation number. If it's a group contract, this is where we're using it every 5 minutes. You don't even need to change the number. And generally all I'm doing is changing the hotel dates or price or, room or whatever, hitting save. And now when I go to this trip, there should be 2 lines, the one I had and the one I just created.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So obviously if this was a new trip without a reservation on it, now this would just be the one reservation on this trip. And the post most recent works also. The caveat there is if you shut your browser, it obviously won't know what your most recent was. But you do also have to save in order for it to work. See, and you could actually see there, the most recent one was for Weldon, even though I copied over a different one. When I changed the profile to be the Weldon's and saved it, it now knew that that was my most recent one.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So it doesn't matter if it's a cruise booking, a package booking, and anything booking. It's going to automatically just copy over exactly what was there. And then you would have to manually update names, dates, pricing, any of that information. Where we're using it every day is contracted group on package, but also group cruise, where everybody's on the same dates, everybody's on the same ship. The only thing we are changing is their names. And if they're on a different cabin category, we're changing that information in the price. But I'm seeing tremendous usage from our agency and just really in those 2 areas, not so much in just a regular FIT reservation.
Right.
And I will say that if you are using exclusive group travel for a contracted land group, you actually don't need it because you can download individual rooms from their system. Just a sort of neat tidbit / time savings technique if you're doing contracted groups on land side. Other.
So I guess you've been using that.
I've demonstrated the capabilities. This is a taped recording. Any other questions? Yeah, I mean, if you've used the interfaces, that right now, from the technical perspective, is the strongest of the 3 interfaces. So, I mean, without going into, that has it's the cleanest data, the most functionality, especially as it relates to groups. And obviously the ability to post payments upstream still exists there. Travel impressions obviously is probably the second most functionality, and then the mark, because you can't push the payments upstream, seems to be just a little bit additional limitation. And again, we've requested the same functionality from everybody. It's just what they are physically capable of doing at this point. And we're already, obviously, every week talking to other suppliers, and hopefully we'll kick off some projects soon with other suppliers. Anything else I could answer questions about, demonstrate? All right. Are people using reminders?
Yes, they're fabulous. I love that they're right in my face.
Awesome. I'll be. I mean, to us, everything's been a game changer. But sending reminders has changed the amount of emails between agents and me to my agents has probably gone down by 10. Because anytime you make a charisma booking and you need to pre-register it, I'm not even, I don't even have to, it automatically, I copy and paste the same reminder in every time, where if it's a Hard Rock or a Palace or whatever it might be, I just go and fire it away rather than send them an email where I never know if they actually do it or not. Where here, I obviously can track it and see when they complete it. So obviously every agency does things a little different, but for us, it's been a huge way for me to see what's going on for my agents. All right. Again, we're here. If there's questions, comments, issues, shoot away an email, post it on. If it's a best practice issue or a user enhancement, very honestly, I prefer if it goes to Facebook, just because others can chime in and say they would need that functionality or not. And also, Robert, Nikita, myself are all looking at those type of things as we go through our meetings. If it's a bug or I don't understand this type of thing, those are probably generally easier received via email than via Facebook group. But we're obviously appreciate all of you guys who are users and helping us co-develop this going forward and supporting us. So thank you for that, and I'll open it one last time, and if not, we can start making money. All right, thanks everyone. I'll post this out there just for those who couldn't make it. Thank you.
Thank you.